Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovich family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Hey, New Orleans, get ready for some rugby. There's a new pro sports team in town, and it's NOLA Gold, bringing world-class rugby to the Crescent City. The game is fast, the hits are hard, the fan experience is for real. Season tickets, lifetime tickets, and game day passes are all available at nolagoldrugby.com. I'm John Goodman, and I'll see you in the scrum.
So here's the bottom line. It's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Happy holidays and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and the Saints got an early Christmas present last night, beating the Carolina Panthers. They have the best record in the NFL, and congratulations to the Tulane Green Wave, their big win this past weekend, their first bowl win in 16 years. Congrats to them. LSU's bowl's coming up, but we have a great show for you today. The czar of the Superdome, Doug Thornton's coming with us. David Wesley, an original Hornet who now calls the Pels game, and the great Ronnie Lamarque comes back for year two, singing us a Christmas song right here on Primetime Sports. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Happy holidays, everybody. I told you this was going to be a fun show, and later on in the show we're going to have David Wesley, who's about to take off from Milwaukee. The Pelicans play tomorrow night. He was one of the original Hornets, and we've become a little tradition. I got Ronnie Lamarque singing another Christmas song, and don't forget next week, Mark Romig. We're going to have some of the rugby guys, and also the Southland Conference Player of the Year, Chase Forcade, who played his high school ball right here at Rummel, and he's, of course, a Nichols Colonel now. But right now, well, I've got the czar of the Superdome, the guy who runs things. You probably don't know exactly what he does, but that's what this show's about. His name's Doug Thornton, and he's synonymous with the Superdome. He's synonymous with helping bring the Saints back after Katrina, and his first time on Primetime Sports. It's a pleasure, man. Welcome.
Thanks,
it's good to have you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
I think what people don't realize, they see this guy that works in the Dome and brings events. You know, we have a lot of things coming in. Obviously, the Super Bowl's coming in about 6 years. We also have the Final Four coming in about 4 years and the National Championship game coming in a couple of years. But you also played football yourself. And I was a little bit surprised. I knew you were an athlete. I just didn't know that you followed the lineage of guys like Terry Bradshaw, who obviously is a Hall of Famer, Joe Ferguson, who was a great quarterback at Arkansas, and he was Buffalo Bills quarterback when O.J. Simpson was there. But you also played quarterback there as well as Josh Booty's dad at Woodlawn High School. Talk about that.
Gosh, that was many years ago. You mentioned some great quarterbacks. I wasn't even in the league with those guys, but yes, I did play at Woodlawn. I was a quarterback there, and actually Joe Ferguson was the guy who taught me how to play quarterback. I was a wide receiver as a young freshman at Woodlawn High School, and we didn't have a backup for our starter, Keith Bogan, who was our starting quarterback. So A.L. Williams, our coach, said, I'm going to move you over to quarterback.
Well, there's Joe Ferguson right there, one of your mentors.
Joe, yeah, Joe he had no tolerance for someone who couldn't play. So I could barely take a snap from center, so he had very little tolerance.
No patience?
No patience at all with me. But Joe worked with me during spring practice when I was a freshman, and by the time I got back to two-a-days when I was a sophomore, he had molded me into a quarterback somehow.
So when you were in high school, he was playing for the Buffalo Bills, and he's obviously O.J. Simpson got them on TV because he was the leading rusher, first 2,000 yards. There's O.J. right there. There's Joe on the far right, right?
Yeah, that's Joe.
But one of the great. So this is one of your mentors that you were watching as you're in high school playing in the pros.
Well, what's crazy about this is that I grew up in the shadow of Woodlawn High School. So when I was a kid, I would go up and watch Woodlawn practice.
Right.
And back in the day when Terry Bradshaw was quarterbacking, and actually
there's Terry right there.
That coach you see in the picture there is Lee Hedges. He and my dad were high school classmates at Fair Park High School, and so I would go up and watch Woodlawn practice when I was a young boy growing up in the shadows.
So you remember seeing him?
I remember seeing him. I went to all the games in 1966. When Joe was a quarterback, or when Terry was a quarterback, and then Joe followed Terry in '67 and '68 and became an All-American. We had some great touch football games when I was a kid.
Nice.
So Joe and Terry would literally come back and work out at Woodlawn High School during the summer when they were both playing in the pros. And I was a young boy at that time, man. 14, 15 years old. Great athletes like Pat Tilley and Carlos Pennywell and Ross Oglesby, Tommy Spinks. You may not remember any of these guys, but they would all come back to Woodlawn. Woodlawn in its day was very much like John Curtis is today.
There's Terry with the javelin record.
I was actually there the night that he broke the record.
Are you kidding me? In '66?
1966, he broke the record. He threw the javelin, I think, 267 feet. That was at Fair Park High School at a track meet, and he never took off his sweatpants. He literally was warming up. He threw the javelin and broke the record that night.
Wasn't he the first pick of the draft?
He was number one
with Chuck
pick in the
Noll,
draft.
I think, when
1970,
Chuck,
yeah.
with the Steelers. And my first memories are obviously the Immaculate Reception and all those. Yeah. There's Noll right there.
Yeah.
But hey, by the way, you also play quarterback. You were a scholarship player. I don't think anybody, except people maybe close to you, know that you played at McNeese. You were a Cowboy over in Lake Charles.
I played at McNeese State. Yeah, I was offered a scholarship out of high school. Injured my knee my senior year in high school, and actually McNeese took a chance. I was a two-sport athlete, and one of the reasons I picked McNeese is they allowed me to play both baseball and football. Back in the day, you could do that. Now, kids are probably one-sport athletes, you know, and they train for a particular position.
They
specialize a lot more, but
right.
Back then, I loved baseball as much as I did football.
Absolutely.
In fact, I felt like I was a better baseball player than football player, mainly because of my size. But yeah, I played at McNeese until I had to end my career because of a knee injury.
Well, everybody knows that you're the executive vice president of SMG. I don't think many people know exactly what that means and what that stands for. Kind of fill us in, A, how you got into this work, because I think people are like, how do you get to that spot? And then B, because you were an oil man, I think, before that. And then B, what does it mean and what do you do?
Well, I got into the sports business coincidentally in the 1980s. Back in 1986, we hosted the Final Four here. That was the famous Keith Smart, Indiana shot that where they beat.
That was 87, yes. Steve
when they
Alford,
beat Syracuse.
Keith Smart, right.
And I volunteered for the Final Four as part of the host committee, and along with a few of my friends. And it was shortly after that that Ian Arnoff, who was the former chairman of First NBC Bank, challenged members of the Young Leadership Council to come up with an idea to create a sports commission.
Nice.
So we started the New Orleans Sports Foundation in 1988. Merv Trail was our first chairman. As a civic volunteer.
And you were volunteering?
I was a civic volunteer, I was on the board, and we were able to get the Olympic track and field trials awarded to New Orleans in 1990 and for the 92 trials. And I had the distinction of having to raise the money to renovate Tad Gormley Stadium back in the day, which turned out to be a successful effort. You know, we hosted the trials, renovated the stadium, and that was kind of my first transition into the sports world. And in 1994, I became the executive director of the Sports Foundation, ran the organization for almost 4 years, and I joined SMG in the late 1997 period, right after Super Bowl. and I've been there now for 21 years.
Wow. So after the Patriots-Packers Super Bowl, and you've been 21 years doing this, and
yeah.
So do you have any regrets leaving the other business? I mean,
you know, I don't. I look back on it. It was one of those career changes. I remember walking. I worked for Pat Taylor. You know, Pat Taylor was a very famous oil man back in the day.
Yeah.
And I always thought, growing up in Shreveport, you know, I'd make my living in the oil business. You know, because I grew up in kind of the oil patch.
It'd probably be a pretty good living.
Pretty good living. So I left the oil business to transition into the sports business. I never will forget Pat saying to me, you know, you need to do what you love, and I can tell you're passionate about this. I never thought for a moment coming out of college that I would be in the sports business.
Sure, right.
But he said, I can tell that you're passionate about it, and he said, take it from a guy who has a lot of money. Of course, he was a billionaire. He said, money's not the only thing that's going to make you happy. You need to follow your passion.
That is right.
And he said, if you follow your passion, the money will follow
you. Man, I've heard that speech myself. Hey, by the way, I have a picture here of you overlooking kind of a crowd at the Dome. And this is how I think people kind of foresee you. You're like the czar of the Superdome. You're looking over at all the people coming into your building. And I think we're going to put it up right now. But talk about like what you actually do for the Superdome.
So my role at the Superdome today is to help negotiate the long-term leases, help attract some of the events, work with some of the long-term capital planning, deal with some of the bigger issues. I'm not as day-to-day as I once was.
Right.
You know, I was general manager there in 1997 when I started and progressed up through the ranks.
Now you have Evan helping you out.
I've got Evan.
Right.
Alan Freeman is our general manager. He runs the business day-to-day for us at the Smoothie King Center in the Superdome. But I look after some of the bigger issues for the LSED. You know, long-range capital planning. You know, some of the renovation work that we have upcoming. The major projects that are underway, and to help steer the business from a business standpoint. For SMG as a company, I do the same thing on a national level.
Okay.
You know, we have 5 other NFL stadiums that we manage. There are 65 arenas that we oversee. 58 performing arts theaters around the country.
Wow.
When I started with the company, we had 35
How beautiful is that structure?
Yeah, it's timeless. You know, the architecture of that stadium is so beautiful. Even today, there are many national architectural firms that look at that building and say, you know, what a timeless feature.
I wasn't going to go there yet, but we have shots of it when it was being built back in the 70s when you were still in high school. Because I remember when they moved, everything moved. Here it is, August 3rd, 1975. I remember I was at the last event ever at Tulane Stadium, which was football, the Super Bowl. It was Super Bowl IX. I was a little kid.
Yeah.
But talk about this, because I have a couple of friends, fathers, who actually were on the architects of the Superdome, and they like to brag about that, and rightfully so. They did such a magnificent job.
Well, what's amazing about the Dome to me is the fact that it is so large. And the reason that's significant, because it's the one thing that's allowed us to expand and do the renovations inside the shell that we have today.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that a lot of the Dome stadiums that were built in the 70s and 80s, you know, after the Superdome was constructed, they were about 1 million gross square feet. We're close to 2 million square feet at the Superdome, so twice the size of the Astrodome, twice the size of the RCA Dome, twice the size of the old Metrodome in Minneapolis, which was torn down.
Yep.
And that has allowed us to do a lot within that space. You know, the bunker clubs down below on the plaza level.
Those are amazing.
Several years ago, we redefined the lower bowl. We created more seats in the lower bowl, more seating capacity. The club lounges we have on the 200 level, all of those features would not be possible but for the fact that the stadium has 2 million square feet. So I attribute that to Dave Dixon, Buster Curtis, and Arthur Davis. You know, the original architects and the dreamers. You know, they had the vision back in the 60s with this building. It was really ahead of its time. And the fact that it's still with us today. It's 43 years old?
43, you're right.
And now it's in its second half-life. Most of these stadiums have a 30-year life cycle. You know, if they're lucky, they have a 30-year life cycle, and you replace the pieces and parts within those 30 years, all the FF&E, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
FF&E, there you go.
And now we are in the second half-life of the Dome. You know, 43 years, think about it. So we're approaching the second, like the midpoint of that half-life. So it would make sense now that we start thinking about what's the future of the Dome,
right?
And what are the renovation possibilities. And we've been We've been master planning that now for the past 2 years.
Can you share any of it?
Well, I think there's some things that we can still do. You know, there are things that we're looking at. For example, field level boxes. You know, in the lower bowl.
Nice.
Reconfiguring,
nice. Wow.
Taking the ramp system out.
All right.
That would allow us to use that 80,000 square feet that's occupied by the ramps today to expand our club lounges, to create more concession points of sale, widen the concourses at the 200 level.
Oh, that would be nice.
All the way up
that
through
would be
the building.
Nice. To widen the
create some
concourses,
natural
yes.
light, more natural light in the vertical spaces. So
I love it.
All of those things are possible. And we're taking a look at it right now.
We're hitting the trifecta right coming up, and I just mentioned the 3 big events. I mean, there's all kind of events that you bring in that are major, but when you're talking about the Super Bowl, you're talking about the Final Four, and you're talking about the NCAA Football National Championship, all coming in two-year spans. That's a home run. And talk about what that means to the city, and how do you get these big events in?
Well, New Orleans, of course, is well positioned. We've known that, you know, for a long time to host these big events because of really 3 things. One, the proximity of the Superdome to the downtown environment. 2, we have almost 30,000 hotel rooms downtown now, which is almost unmatched.
I don't think people realize how great we have it, because I've been in every stadium around, and some of these stadiums are far from where you want to hang out, and we're right in the middle of the action.
Just look at last year, for example. We operate the facility in Minnesota, U.S. Bank Stadium.
Exactly.
Beautiful new stadium.
It is.
Just like the Superdome, it's located downtown, but there are only 6,000 hotel rooms in downtown Minneapolis, so people were staying in Duluth, you know, 30 miles away, you know, to transport in for the Super Bowl. Here we've got 30,000 hotel rooms that are within a half mile or a mile walking distance from the Dome. So 1 is the proximity, 2 is the number of hotel rooms, and 3 would be the facilities that we have. Not just the Superdome, but the Convention Center, which is important for hosting all those ancillary events that go along with these major events that we attract.
Right.
And along with that is, of course, the French Quarter, which is 300 years old, and the reason people come here to begin with.
Absolutely, it's right around the corner.
It sets up very well for the major events. And one of the things that we have to do to remain competitive is to keep those facilities fresh.
Yep.
We've got to reinvest our capital to make sure we're competitive with the new stadiums like U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. So we do have a great lineup, you know, that's ahead of us. We got the college football playoff in 20, the Final Four in 22. We've got the Super Bowl in 24 and WrestleMania coming back in 25.
And that was huge. That was huge.
People underestimate that.
Oh, I know how huge it was.
But it
was
brings
big.
in as many people as Super Bowl.
Hey, by the way, take us through, because I know you've told the story a million times, but you were one of the people that was inside the Dome during Katrina. And take us kind of through from the beginning, how long you thought it might be, and then you and your wife, I mean, obviously I've heard the stories, but as the person that was through it, I want to hear your side of this.
Well, I guess just starting with the tragedy itself, we were there for 5 days. We never thought we'd be there for 5 days. It was because of the levee breaches that allowed the water to penetrate our city, and we were basically stuck there. And over that 5-day period, we began to accumulate about over 30,000
How many did you
people.
expect?
Well, we had 15,000 when we opened the doors on Sunday,
Right.
but that number doubled in a matter of 2 days.
With the breach.
With the breach,
Right.
and people were being transported there by helicopter and by high water vehicles. So the Dome was never equipped, you know, to be a refuge of last resort. It was pressed into service. When I left there after that 5th day, I flew out on a helicopter on the way to Baton Rouge and had a chance to see the roof very up close and personal as we took off. And I thought to myself, I'll never be back. I never will forget leaving the city that day, looking over my left shoulder, back at the city itself and the Superdome in the distance, thinking, this is epic.
This is it.
And you know, I'll never see it again.
But you got it back within a year.
Well,
and I know your wife Denise did not want you to rebuild. She's like,
well,
why would you bring anything back to this place?
You know, like most couples at the time, we lost. Well, we didn't lose our home entirely. We had 7 feet of water, so we were concerned about rebuilding, and you know, we struggled with that decision for about a month. But it wasn't until September 30th that I first learned from the architects who we brought in to do assessment. A month later,
right.
that we could rebuild it. They said to me, we think it can be rebuilt. That's assuming that your mechanical systems are intact, but it's going to take probably 2 years, over 2 years, and over $200 million. And that was our first glimmer of hope. And I never will forget, I said to my wife, I want to give this a shot. I really believe we can do it. And I think if we do it, it will be transformational.
And what was her reaction?
She said, I think you're crazy, like most other people.
Right.
You know, she was struggling with it because, you know, we didn't have a home at that time.
And you were working in Baton Rouge most of the time?
We had our offices set up in Baton Rouge. We were commuting in the early days for the first 6 weeks, probably after Katrina. And then we eventually, she and I moved back to the area and came back and settled in, and we fought the good fight.
Well, here are the shots from when it reopened in late September of 2006. I remember flying in from Atlanta just to be at this game. I'm a New Orleanian. I wanted to be there, and I got there right in time for you two. And talk about this and the rebirth, because this was, without you, this doesn't happen. I'm just going to, obviously everybody knows that. I'm not trying to pump you up, but that's a fact. Without your efforts, that comeback didn't happen. And then how it happened that day with us beating the Falcons in the block punt, you take it from there.
Well, it's nice of you to say that, Scott, but there were 850 men and women who were on this job 7 days a week, and they had one mission in mind, and that was to play a football game on September 25th, 2006, and they were not going to be denied. So it wasn't just me. There were a lot of other people who contributed. But it was a historic moment, and I just remember that day, you know, there was so much pent-up excitement, you know, by the people of New Orleans and by those of us who work at the Superdome. There was anxiety on our part because this was the first opportunity we had to basically pump all the water through and all the electricity through the building, and we were hoping it was just going to hold together because, you know, we had not had a chance to commission the building. But when we opened those doors, I never will forget, I stood there. I wanted to see those people coming through.
Wow.
And I remember seeing their faces. There were tears streaming
I've
down
seen the picture
faces.
of you looking down at everybody coming through, and that must have been such a magical moment.
It was an unbelievable moment. I felt so much pride for our city and for those people that were coming through those doors. It was just great to be back. And the game itself, I have to be honest, was a blur. I barely remember.
You remember the block punt?
I remember the block punt, and I remember the win.
Right.
One of the most memorable things, I'll share this with you. It was a poignant moment after the game. You know, the visiting team locker room is across the field from the loading dock where the teams actually get on the buses and leave. So Jimmy Mora was coaching the Falcons then.
Jim Moore Jr. Right.
And he was walking across the field, and we were standing on the field at about the 20-yard line. As he was walking towards me, as he approached me, he was smiling, and he stuck out his hand and he says, "We never had a chance."
We never had a chance. We never had a chance. We were like the Lions.
But you know what he said to me?
The Christians being fed to the Lions.
He said, "I'm so happy for the city of New Orleans." He said, "If we had to lose a game, this is the one."
Well,
and
absolutely.
I never will forget that. That's how the country felt.
The country felt that way.
You know, so Jim Mora Jr., for him to say that, it was a poignant moment, and I just never will forget. He said, "We were playing against the entire city tonight, and we never had a chance."
Never had a chance. By the way, this could go an hour because I have like 5 stories. I want to talk about the whole Benson thing. But hey, you know, here on Primetime Sports, we love to give our guests presents and gifts. Well, because it's Christmas, you're getting a little extra. Everybody that's coming through today is going to get extra. Our normal $50 gift certificate.
Oh, well, that's nice.
That's Shays de la Shays.
Thank you.
And here we go. This is something from our good friends at Task Performance. Nice wear. This is bamboo cotton. How soft is that stuff?
Oh, that is fantastic.
Phenomenal. And since you're a NOLA guy, this is a friend of mine, Billy Shell, has a company called NOLA Shirts. And it's like the little Saints emblem right there, and it says NOLA real small, nice and classy. NOLAshirts.com. You can get these. Great Christmas presents, by the way.
Love it.
And this is black and gold for you.
Thank you very much, Scott.
And I appreciate you coming.
It was a pleasure being with you.
And we have a tradition. You see these balls signed?
Yeah.
You got Archie Manning, Alvin Gentry, Dell Demps, a bunch of others.
Great company there, for sure.
There you go, right there, my friend. That is Doug Thornton. We appreciate you. The Czar of the Superdome. And so much more. He does so much for the city of New Orleans, and we're very thankful to have him. You know, he's a North Louisiana guy. We love him. Hey, by the way, we have another pro team. We talk about the Pelicans a lot. We're going to have David Wesley coming right up. We talk about the Saints all the time. But there's Major League Rugby now. That is a Major League team, and their season starts, season 2, on January 26th. And we have a little schedule here. They got their first 4 games are at home. They're looking to possibly move into maybe the Zephyr Stadium down the road, but right now they're playing at Shaw's Field. They call it the Gold Stadium, NOLA Gold, and there's the schedule. We also have, there's a big event, by the way, at Rock and Bowl, where John Goodman, who's one of the spokesmen of the team, he's kind of the face. Billy Nunguest, the lieutenant governor, to get the iguanas. That is at the Rock and Bowl, and that's going to be January 13th. So look into that. Check it out. Go to nolagoldrugby.com if you're interested. That's going to be a fun event. I'll certainly be there, and a lot of people you know will also be there. Doug, I can't thank you enough, my friend.
Thank you.
Be
we
good.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Hey, be right back. We're going to have our man David Wesley. He's been here before. He's one of the original Hornets when they first moved here. And now, of course, he calls the games with Joel Myers. Right next on Primetime Sports.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Embracing New Orleans soul with style in fashion wear from NOLAshirts.com. Show off your love for one of America's unique cities with shirts, belts, and hats in a variety of colors and styles. NOLAshirts.com proudly celebrates the culture and embodies the spirit and determination of people from the Crescent City. The tradition lives on at NOLAshirts.com.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, I got to thank Doug Thornton. What a great segment. Learning things about the Dome I didn't know, and I thought I'd studied all I needed to know, but that guy filled me in on filling some blanks. Hey, you know basketball is my favorite sport, and you know I always love to have some of the Pelicans players, whether it be Sheck Diallo, who came recently. Obviously, Del Demps comes a good bit, so does Coach Alvin Gentry. But I really like talking about the people who call the game and somebody that actually played. One of the original Hornets, and when they came in 2002 from Charlotte, was guard David Wesley. He had a 14-year NBA career, and now he's been calling the games with the Pelicans with Joel Myers going into his 7th season now. I can't even believe it's been that long. But David Wesley,
yes,
welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
I remember last year we kind of filled everybody in how you started your career. You played at Baylor, 14 years with 6 different teams. In a nutshell, how was that?
It was a lot of fun. You know, when you go in undrafted, it's a little uncertain. You know,
right.
You don't know exactly where you're going. And my first year, I played behind Kenny Anderson, who didn't play. I didn't play a whole lot.
Right.
He led all guards in minutes played that year. So I'm a free agent at the end of the year. They don't re-sign me. I go try out with Boston, and they offer me a 1-year deal. I say no. I'm gonna go play in Italy, and before I could get away, they turned it into a 3-year deal.
Wow, okay.
And then after my 3rd year in Boston, now 4 years, I remember July 1st comes, Charlotte's on the phone. My agent says, you know, it's a 4-year, whatever deal. And all I could think of is now I have a possible chance to play 10 years in the league.
Right.
So I didn't tell my agent to go back and talk about money. I said, go get me more years.
Years.
And he came back with 7 years, and I said,
are you kidding me?
That'll be 11 years. That's perfect. So the funny thing about that, though, is when I asked him for more years, I also said, and get me an opt-out. Only something I'd heard of. Didn't know what it meant or anything. Just go.
It sounded good.
I want some wrinkles in my contract.
I want the player option.
Yes. And so he gets me that. I completely forget about it. 4 years into that deal, you know, media starts saying, well, what are you going to do next year? What are you going to do next year? And I'm saying,
oh, because you have the option.
Right. And I'm like, about what? I completely forgot about it.
That's hilarious.
So I ended up getting a 2-year extension on that. So.
Well, there you go. 14 years later, your first thought when you heard the team was going to New Orleans, because you guys had settled into Charlotte. Your team was great. I mean, really good, always going to the playoffs. When you heard New Orleans, what was your first thought?
Well, I didn't know. I'd been to Essence one year. Bobby and I came down.
Bobby Phillips,
yes,
right?
Came down and hung out for Essence. So that's all I knew about New Orleans.
Pretty good weekend.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Bad.
And then I just finished building a house in Charlotte.
That's right. You told me that last time. I forgot.
Yes. And so we basically lived in it 4 months, 5 months, and
so your wife was probably not all fired up to go somewhere else.
No, not at all. Because she put a lot of work into that house.
So if y'all, when you moved here in 2002, I mean, have you been here since? I mean, have you not left?
No,
Yes.
I left. So in 2002, 2004, I got traded.
You got traded, yeah, but okay.
To Houston. Then went to Cleveland. Then went back to Houston. Lived there for about 6 years, then came back.
What made you come back though?
The job. You know,
So this was the gig, a TV gig.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
that's
and
right.
I kind of fell into it. I was coaching in the D League.
Right.
And after 2 years of coaching in the D League, I'm in Vegas, trying to find what's next. And
had you had any experience in broadcasting?
I did with Houston when I first retired. Houston wanted me to do some of their studio work. I didn't love it.
Right.
And maybe it was just I wasn't. I was just ready to be doing nothing, I guess. And so I did about 6 games. I didn't even send in my time card to get paid.
Right.
I just did 6 games or 4 games. It might not even been 6. 4 games for free. And then I ran into Harold Kaufman.
Carol Kaufman, right.
I
knew him back in the early 90s when he was in Charlotte.
Yeah, and in Vegas.
And that's how it came about.
That's how it came about.
7 years in, you're doing a fantastic job. Let's talk about the team. Pelicans, obviously, this time last year, it was kind of the same drill.
Yeah.
Win one, lose one, hover around 500. On January 10th of last year, they were 20-20, and all of a sudden they went on that crazy run. And it was, people forget this, but they were literally 32-14 or 34-12 from that point to the end of the Portland series.
Yeah.
This team's doing the same thing at this juncture.
Yeah.
I know they've had some injuries, but NBA teams all have injuries. But the fact is, what is your take on what's happened in the first 32, 33 games?
Well, I think the difference between this team and last year, the end of last year,
right,
is their defense.
Right.
Last year, towards the end of the season, not only were they scoring points, but they were defending. So when it comes down to close games and close matches, they were able to get stops. This year, they just haven't, and I can't explain why. But and then when Anthony Davis is off the floor, they're even worse defensively with him off the floor. So until they kind of commit to that, until they find ways to get stops and things like that, and then turnovers come and go.
Right.
The other night against Miami, they struggled to score. It's
Can
just
you put your finger on it right now?
I can't. It seems like every other night it's something a little different. They don't take care of the ball one night. They don't shoot the ball great one night. They don't defend. It's just something, or don't rebound. And this is a good team. This is a good team, and I'm still probably like a lot of fans waiting for them to hit that stride, and certainly helping. It would help to get Peyton back
and Mirotic, right?
And Mirotic.
Right.
So. And a couple of guys have been in and out of the lineup. E'Twaun Moore missed a couple.
Right.
But,
it's not like football where you have 22 guys starting. There's 5. So when you take 1, 2, or even 3 out of that, people forget that's significant. And that's going to affect the way you play basketball.
It is, and especially your point guard, which you put Elfrid Payton into the lineup and move Drew Holiday to the 2 guard,
where he was so good last year.
That is his. He can play point guard, but his natural and best thing for this team is him playing the 2 in his attack and getting to the basket and scoring the basketball. That's where this team is best. And Elfrid came in, played 4 games, and was excellent.
Right.
He was as good as you could expect, and it's hard to replace that.
Great transition up and down the court. Perfect with AD because he runs the floor. AD's one of those rare big men. They go and they had. I can't wait for that alley-oop combo to work. What do you envision when they're fully healthy?
Well, a lot like their first 4 games, and their pace was really fast. They were getting the ball up and down the court. That started with Elfrid Payton. And then, of course, you see the lobs. You're going to see the 3-point shots. You're going to get great looks, more spacing, early offense.
Yeah.
All those things help this team play well. But at some point, they got to guard somebody. If they want to win close games, they have to do a much better job on the defensive end. And right now, it's not consistent enough to win games.
What's the deficiency in the defense? Help defense, not getting.
Well, guarding the ball.
That's it.
Yeah, guarding the ball, and and they depend on AD a lot to change shots and block shots at the rim, but keeping guys in front of them have been an early season problem for this team, and it shows.
Anthony Davis came in the league just as you did.
Yeah, that kind of talent came in the league.
Exactly. The same time you came here, I get you all 2 peas in a pod. Yeah. But you've seen the progression of Anthony as a player and as a person. You've been right there. You're on the team playing with him. Talk about him from year 1 in 2012 to where he is right now.
Well, Monty Williams protected him his rookie year like some coaches will do. He didn't want Anthony to feel like it's all on your shoulders. And so he kind of held him back, and you could see signs of his greatness, how good this young player could really be. And now, he just keeps evolving, keeps getting better, scoring more points, blocking more shots. This year, the thing he's added is he's getting more assists. He's got 13, 14 games with 5+ assists in a game. So you've really watched him grow, and he's given this franchise and the fans some really great moments.
The fans here, they're always scared. They remember Chris Paul leaving. Chris Paul year 7, and Anthony's in year 7. He has that next year under contract, but everybody's worried that he's going to go. Do you trade after the season just so you can get something? What's the take right now? Because this is what the city is. I mean, that's all I hear. Is Anthony going to stay?
Well, as an organization, they're going to say and do all the right things. No one's going to show their hand. I think Anthony loves New Orleans,
right.
And I think he wants to stay here, but he also wants to win. And as a player, what do you when do you make that decision? How do you make that decision? And especially other teams out there that are having success, do you say for a small market team, I'm going to stay and make this a championship team, or are you going to go chase the championship, which Durant did. He went and chased the championship. Yeah. He's got to. In today's league, it's hard. Now, my question is, do you want to be that guy that traded Anthony Davis? I wouldn't want that. No. I wouldn't want that decision.
Right.
That's a hard decision, and I don't think it'll happen. And as a general manager, then you say, I'm counting on Anthony to stay because he's a great talent.
Hey, speaking of general manager, I get tired on Twitter. I almost have to turn it off because you hear all the negatives when the Pelicans lose a game. It's like, fire the coach, fire the GM. By the way, if he doesn't pick up Mirotic right when Boogie got hurt, they don't go to the playoffs and win around. It's funny because everybody says the job he's not doing. I'm looking at all the things he does to try to improve this team, not just to win, but to make Anthony happy.
Yeah, and that is the key. That is the ultimate key, is how do you make this team win? And that's what would make Anthony Davis happy. And he's made moves and things to help, and the Mirotic signing was great. But also, AD went ballistic towards the end of the season.
Yes, he did.
Once you got Cousins' injury, all of a sudden he said, oh, now I have to go. And he was much more aggressive. And at times, he's really aggressive, and at times he's not. He got 4 shots the other night in the last 21 minutes of the Miami game.
There was like a 12-minute stretch with no shots.
Yeah, for the third quarter, he didn't shoot the ball at all. That kind of stuff can happen if they want to continue to win.
Hey, by the way, I talked about you and Joel, but there's a third member of your team that's been there the exact same amount of time,
we all
Jen
came
Hale.
together.
And, obviously she was on the show right before she announced that she had the health issues. She's such a gem of a human being. What's it been like to work with her?
Oh, excellent. And she came into this, doing football and learning that game. And, her knowledge of the NBA game, she would just come out and say, I don't know what that is. I want to learn. And we've sat down and I've drawn plays. She's such a great person and works so hard. I mean, she's gone on Sunday doing football, meet us in another city or state to do another, a basketball game.
It's unbelievable.
She has unlimited energy.
Her stamina has got to be, because traveling alone, and she does NFL and then your games, it's incredible. By the way, you don't know this, I used to be Craig Sager's producer when you came in the league, and you were one of the most approachable guys. I mean, NBA players come in all different shapes and sizes, but I just want everybody to know, he's one of these guys from day one has been the guys that will not ignore you when you come say hello. He'll share some words, and for that, I want to thank you as well.
Yes, thank you for having me.
David, it's Christmas coming up. We give gifts. You know, last time you were on last year, we gave you a gift. Here's another gift certificate to Shays Delachey's, that restaurant.
Yes, absolutely.
And once again, I don't know if you even got it, because we started this task thing in the summer. We give Task Performance shirts to work out. This is a New Orleans company, bamboo cotton fiber.
God, now I got to work out.
You got to work out. Well, that's where I first met you, was at the gym. That's when I was working out. I got to get back. And by the way, this is Christmas also, so we'll give you another shirt. NOLAshirts.com. There's a big little fleur-de-lis right here with NOLA underneath. Wonderful shirt. Beautiful. Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you very much.
And you got to catch that team flight to Milwaukee for the game tomorrow night.
Absolutely. Thank you.
David Wesley. Hey, want to thank him and Doug Thornton for coming on. Hey, next week, by the way, Chase Forcade, the Southland Conference Player of the Year. Mark Romig, who heads the tourism board. And also my favorite guys, the rugby guys. Holden Youngert's coming back, and he's brought Con Nolan along. That's next week. But next, I've got Ronnie Lamarque. Remember last year he sang us a Christmas song? I got so much great feedback. He's coming next. We're going to have a Christmas song, and we're going to share some words with Ronnie right here on Primetime Sports.
Oh, the good life, full of fun, seems to be the ideal. The good life lets you hide all the sadness you feel. You won't really fall in love, for you can't take the chance. So please be honest with yourself. Don't try to fake romance. Oh, the good life, to be free and explore the unknown. Like the heartaches, when you learn you must face them alone. So please remember, I still want you. And in case you wonder why, well, just wake up, kiss the good life goodbye.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports. Had so much fun with David Wesley. Obviously, he's an original Hornet, now calling the Pelicans game. And, of course, the czar of the Superdome, Doug Thornton. I got to tell you, I've been doing this show for 3 years, and I've had a lot of big guests, the Archie Mannings of the world, Karl Malone, the governor. We've had a bunch of them. But I had more feedback on one show that was last Christmas when I had a guy named Ronnie Lamarque sing a Christmas song. So many people everywhere I went, like, I love that Ronnie Lamarque thing. So I said, you know what? Let's make this a tradition. Let's do a Christmas song again. So we're going to do that one this week, and he's going to sing one for us next week. And this week's song is going to be The Good Life, which you just heard. That's obviously a Tony Bennett original from 1950. Ronnie did it better. I love it. And by the way, he's got these albums. Last year he put this out, 1771. We'll explain what that means. And then his live concert right there as well on Blu-ray. But here he is, the one, the only. You know him as a famous car dealer, but he's also one of the greatest guys in the city of New Orleans. How you doing, my friend?
Very nice, man.
Hey.
A lot of smoke, man. A lot of smoke.
By the way, last year, I have to say, you came and sang, and what do you think when I just told you that I had so much feedback? You said, you got to get Ronnie back.
I had so many calls, texts, and everything you can think about as well. Lots of people watch the show because it comes on many times.
Right.
And I was very sick, man. You know, I was after the concert, I was run down.
You were fighting through it.
I was before AGT, before America's Got Talent.
Right.
And that's another story we can get into.
Oh, we definitely will.
But I really thank you for allowing me to be here. And you're seeing another side of me other than, you know, selling cars, trucks, and all that. But I love our community. And I love you, and thank you for what you're doing here.
You're an icon in the city. There's no doubt about it. You have been doing what you do for so long, but you're one of these giving spirits, giving souls, and that's why people gravitate to you.
That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Hey, by the way, we talked about, he just mentioned America's Got Talent. I know this summer, if you watched it, well, Ronnie Lamarque was a big part of it, and I wanted to talk to him about that experience because not often people from New Orleans are on that show, and that's a worldwide show. And
54 million viewers.
That's amazing. 54 million.
54
Take
million.
us through the process, Ronnie.
Well, you know, when I was 17, I was discovered by a talent agent from Chicago. I did two sessions on Canal Street at the Maison Blanche building. Hey, kid, what floor are you going to? Floor 12. Anyway. And he died before we could produce the song. He was from Chicago, big time.
Oh, wow.
Says, kid, you got the look. You can make it happen. Anyway, I went in another direction, thank you, Lord, in the car business. And then at 71, my wife says, why don't you go ahead and do your CD? So I did a CD. And then I said, well, why don't I do a concert? So we did it at Jefferson Performing Arts, 1,000 people.
Your beautiful wife, Natasha, right there.
Natasha's, man. And it was a sellout. I mean, really beautiful. A 2-hour gig, start to back. Then America's Got Talent heard about it. I went to many different places, did many different auditions. There were 46,000 auditions. I made top 100.
Wow.
Top 72.
Wow.
Finished number 39. It was an arduous time.
Out of 46,000, you finished 39.
Number 39.
Congrats. You probably could have been higher.
Well, I could have been.
I coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But you know.
But talk about how the experience of being on that stage and obviously Simon Cowell and that group was.
They were very intimidating.
Yeah, they are.
You know, you see, you know, Mel B and Howie and of course Simon Says.
Heidi
the whole
Klum,
show
too.
About Simon Says.
Of course.
Yeah, Can I Move Now, Simon? And Heidi Klum, very, very nice lady. It was a tough thing to go through, man.
Well, you're by yourself on an island, right?
Oh, yeah. Look, they put you in rooms and you're sitting there for hours and hours. I mean, they work you. I mean, they work you from soup to nuts everywhere. I was at, down on Hollywood and Vine they're filming me everywhere in the city of Los Angeles.
I remember some of the bumpers. They have you like talking to somebody. I don't know if that's all planned or they just
look, those guys work.
Their production is a formula that works. I mean, I never watched it until about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they pull you in every episode. They always yank some tears out of my eyes because they have these heartwarming moments when they press that thing and they get the golden buzzer. It's become a phenomenal show.
The golden buzzer could be a negative because their golden buzzer is better than the other golden buzzer. And I told them all that before I left. I said, you think it's great? I don't. I think that it puts you in competition and you say something on the air and you sway a voter away from someone because they think maybe yours is better because you have a fan base.
Right.
But y'all do what you want to do. You guys are successful. But I could promise you, when I went up there for my final deal before Live, you had 3,500 people.
Well, tell people each thing you did. Just
after every time I performed, there was 3,500 people live. They taped the shows.
Right.
And then you see if you went on, you went on. All right. I wanted to see if I still had it. And I knew I did. You know, after
you obviously had it. You got in the top 40.
So now I get to the bottom. If I pass this one last show, I'm on Live the next week. And I'm in the middle of doing my song, and Simon says, the backing track's wrong. I go, what? And everyone stops. There's nothing wrong. The crowd's booing. Get out. Come back later when you get it right. I'm going, what are you talking about? So they brought me in the back in this little room. They said, Ronnie, I said, well, let me do San Francisco. Let me do Fly Me to the Moon. Let me do bum, bum, bum. No, you can't do that.
Wait, so he said your back track?
My music was wrong. That wasn't wrong. We already had practiced it an hour before.
Right.
So I couldn't do good is the word. Man, listen. Anyway, I go back there and they said, look, Ronnie, we can't use any. So let me do Quando. No, you can't do that. What am I do? See if you could sing this song to a piano.
Oh my
I
goodness.
went, what?
Oh my goodness.
So I said, let's go. So I get up there,
Right.
and I said, let's do it. I'll do it with a piano. I said, excuse me, where's my piano? My piano was 100 feet away from me.
Are you kidding me?
I said, can I have it next to me, please? I want to be able to feel the piano.
Right.
No. I said, well, I'm not quitting.
No.
So, and I did it. And let me tell you something. I killed it. When I tell you I killed it, I killed it. And the gentleman who was the special guest who did the Wall, I don't know his name. He was the one, you know, that if you ever saw that program, The Wall, where the balls drop.
Absolutely.
He's the host of that.
Oh, wow, okay.
He comes back, he says, let me take Mr. Lamarque. You're phenomenal. I don't know what's going on, but you're phenomenal.
They even threw you a curveball and you still hit it out the park.
Correct.
Because that's a big difference. You're planning on singing with the track, and all of a sudden they got the piano and it's sitting 100 feet from you.
Look, you either can sing or you can't sing with piano. Forget about it. It ain't nothing going to hide you. No backup song, no backup music. So anyway, I was glad to walk.
We just heard your Tony Bennett song. We know you can. And next week we got a Christmas song on Christmas Day that we're going to have for you. Have yourself a very little Merry Christmas. Very Merry Christmas.
Have yourself a Merry little beautiful.
Merry little Christmas. By the way, how's your family doing?
Well, you know, the Lord is amazing. So we get back from AGT. I'm with my wife that night, holding her, and I went, what's going on? And I felt a lump in her breast.
Oh my goodness.
And we went the next day to Oshner. We did biopsies, and it was HER2 positive new, which meant the worst you could get. Went to MD Anderson, went all over. Is there another way? Can we get away from protocol? Can they take a lumpectomy? We couldn't. So she's been through 4 Taxoteres, and now the last red devil of all names will be December 26th, after Christmas.
After Christmas.
And then it's really tough, man, I gotta tell you, Scott, really. And then we go to, January, we do surgery, and then radiation, and then out. It's gotta be a 12-month program. So it's a process.
How's she doing though?
She
Her
is,
spirits and
she's
everything.
amazing,
Yeah.
she looks magnificent. She's wearing wigs, of course.
Yeah, she had chemo, right?
Yeah. She's wearing wigs, and she looks phenomenal in that. But it's a very humbling disease. It's a very, very quiet, you know, the quiet moments and things, because that stuff's going through your body. And I'm going through chemo too, because I'm her partner.
Yes, you are.
You know,
yes,
and
you are.
it's a really, we're so close with the Lord, working with Him. You know, all your past is forgiven. You give yourself up to God and Jesus. And we're going to get through it. I'm so proud of her.
Listen, your love is evident. I mean, I saw you last year at the horse races with her, and y'all were down there. You had a horse getting ready to run,
Right.
and the way you talk about her, it's just marvelous to hear.
And we have a child, Ronnie Michael, who's 21 now. And he'll be graduating from LSU in May. And
was on the football team at one point?
Yeah, 2 years for LSU, and then had a concussion, no more hits.
Right, yeah.
But I can't wait for him to graduate, hopefully come into the business. But we have a solid family. You know, and then this morning, if I could bring this up.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that his phone rings at 7 a.m. And, you know, and it's amazing that your house phone rings. Can you believe it?
Right. The house phone never rings.
What is that? That's a house phone. Man, it won't ring like 20 times. I said, is that Walgreens calling me about a script? And I pick it up and put it back down. It rings back again, and I knew something was wrong.
Right.
And it was my sister-in-law, Betty, saying that my brother Anthony passed away in this.
Oh, my goodness, this morning.
And I'm here today, and I have a program to do. I'm on tonight. Thank you.
News with a Twist.
Tonight I'm doing News with a Twist live. Well, you know, I do 2 shows. I do the 10 and I think the 11 o'clock show with Susan Rosgen.
Yeah.
And I'm going forward with my plans.
That's when you were on News with a Twist before, right there.
Oh, wow, that's right, yeah.
By the way, my condolences. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
And I mean, he's watching down on you right now.
Well, I don't think anyone would watch down on this earth that we have. I believe everything you have to do is look up. And I'm just being, not trying to.
No, I like the way you say that.
No one would look down on sin. You have to look up.
No question.
To the Lord.
Ronnie, it's an honor that you came and sang these songs for me last year. Like I said, I got so much great feedback. I was honored when you said yes on fairly short notice, and I do appreciate you coming. Hopefully we can make this a tradition.
That'd be great.
A holiday tradition.
Yeah.
By the way, you did open a new car dealership. I don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but congrats on that.
We have the Lamarque Automotive Complex, 15 acres right next to I-10 going east to west.
Huge.
Collision center. Huge, baby.
Huge.
And
huge. That's
pre-owned, quick lane, Lincoln. Lincoln's back, ladies and gentlemen. It's a dynamite vehicle. And an all-new Ford. really new. It's not blacktop concrete. It's all 35 million.
I took a look over there, and I'm like,
look,
wow.
Mealy Street, not Wall Street. Mealy Street's a little street in the Araby.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up. So it's local money, not Wall Street money.
Hey, it's the Christmas season, so we have gifts for you and all of our guests for this week and next. I know how much you love NOLA.
Yeah.
And this is a company run by a guy named Billy Shell. It's called NOLA Shirts, and you can go to NOLAshirts.com. Great Christmas idea, by the way.
Yeah.
But look at this. You got the fleur-de-lis. You got the fleur-de-lis here, and you have the NOLA. And it's delicious. It's the Saints colors. And on the back, look at the back real quick. It says, how about them Saints? Well, maybe that one doesn't have it. All right, mine does.
No.
But it says, how about them Saints in gold? But it's a beautiful shirt. And hopefully you'll wear it and represent NOLA.
Hey, I'll take this one.
And this is Task Performance. And this is a nice workout shirt for you.
I need a workout.
Well, don't
Baby,
we all?
work it out.
And by the way, you got to get hungry. There's Shays Delachaise.
This is why I come on the show, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go. Shays Delachaise. Ronnie Lamarque will be there. I got to thank him. My time has run out. I got to thank everybody that came today. Doug Thornton, of course, David Wesley, and my man Ronnie. I hope you enjoyed his Christmas song. We'll do another one next week. I got to thank William Hill, Naila Jones, and the Redhead Tsunami, and everybody at WLAE and CST. Have a wonderful Christmas. We'll see you on Christmas Day next week.